Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What's the most screwed you've seen someone? My favorite divorce story of all time. My buddy meets girl, gets married, la-dee-da 6 months later, she runs off with another dude. After a couple months my buddy filed for divorce. He told her, listen, we've been married 6 months. Let's do an uncontested divorce, since you haven't worked or anything. And I own everything, and did before I met you. She puts up a fight, and eventually comes to I had a car coming into this marriage. And I'm leaving with one she sold her car for some dumb shit. He offers her the truck, 10 years old with 150k miles, but meticulously maintained. She said nope, so off to court they go. She got zip, nada, empty-handed. My favorite justice boner of all time. I've worked as a legal assistant for 2 family law attorneys for the last 8 years. One of the cases that made me the angriest was a man who cheated on his wife when she had cancer. He then leaves his wife and attempts to hide all his assets while she's undergoing chemotherapy. Fortunately, my boss is a badass. She teamed up with a forensic accountant and they took him to the cleaners. He even had to pay the forensic accountant's bill and attorney's fees. I can answer for a friend. His wife was divorcing him because he's an unreliable idiot. He figured that he was smarter than everyone, so he dragged out the process as long as he possibly could, making it as difficult as possible on her. Scheduling and rescheduling meetings, not showing up, promising to do a thing, and then backtracking later, refusing to negotiate at all. I think his plan was to make the divorce so difficult on her that she would just stay married. He was also doing all this pro se, so her lawyer had to deal directly with him. After a year of this, his wife had had enough. She told her lawyer to make it happen. So the lawyer set a date and the court served him notice of the divorce proceeding. She showed up to court and he wasn't there. So as the only party there, she got a very one-sided deal. She got their business, custody of the kids, the house and all contents, her car, and the bank account. He got his car, his clothes, and half the proceeds of the sale of the house when she decides to sell it. That's it. He found out about this when he called the court a week after it happened. What had happened is her lawyer served the divorce notice to an address in a different town with a similar name. Normally this would have been caught by his attorney, who would have received notice directly from the court. But since he had no attorney, there was no one other than him that the court could send it to. He finally hired a lawyer and tried to get the settlement tossed, as he claimed he was never served. But the judge said there was nothing he could do. Not a lawyer, but I knew a guy who lost his own cell phone number. He had the same number since high school, but she convinced the judge that she used his phone enough to get his number. Basically he kept his clothes and car and had to pay alimony. My parents got divorced when I was 12. I'm sketchy on the details, but I remember it was long, drawn out and acrimonious. Eventually, my mum was awarded a massive settlement. My dad was basically left with superannuation and nothing else. After the ruling was handed down, my mother's own lawyer walked into my father and his lawyer's meeting and said that ruling was bullshit, you should appeal. Gotta be pretty bad when a lawyer wants his own win overturned. Not a lawyer, but a dramatic divorce story. I know a man who was falsely accused of domestic violence during the separation from his wife. She lived in the marital home, and he paid for everything for her despite her having a full-time job. She got a boyfriend who didn't work and allowed him to live in the house. My friend went to meet her at the house for a final time to decide who would take what from the house. She was recording everything on his phone without her knowledge, as he was afraid something would be said or happen that might be held against him. They couldn't agree. He left and found out she had called 911 and reported that he had made death threats and assaulted her. The divorce went downhill from there. He spent 14k on lawyers to finally have the charges dismissed. During his criminal ordeal she sued him for 250k in alimony. The recording saved him with the police, and to this day she insists he assaulted her. An unbelievable shit show. Divorce lawyer and mediator here. I once mediated the case of Neckbud v Tiger Mom. It must have started out as the perfect dream for Neckbud. He landed a hot Asian wife, brought her to this country, but once that green card came through, things changed. They had a daughter together, and the case was mostly about her. Tiger Mom had zero respect for this guy, and try as I might to maintain my empathy, I've never felt a greater urge to stuff another human into a locker. two of his demands really stand out. He asked for the following injunction. Tiger Mom shall be enjoined from discussing neckbeard's weight in a derogatory manner. Specifically, Tiger Mom may not refer to neckbeard as fatty, tubby, pudgy, or Baymax. Normally I wouldn't take an offer like that to the other side. I'd normally help a guy come up with something more sensible. But everyone, including his lawyer, just could not take this guy seriously, so I wrote that out verbatim and trotted over to Tiger Mom's room. Of course she thought it was hilarious. She had a super thick accent and said, "My daughter call him Baymax cause he look like Baymax, I can't fix that, he have to fix that." There comes a point at the end of the day when everything is pretty much settled and people are dividing up the shit in the house. Of course neckbeard has a meltdown at this point and it's over a damn Nintendo Switch for the daughter. Tiger Mom made the very sensible proposal that the daughter take the Switch with her to each parent's house as she goes back and forth. Neckbeard freaks out and demands the Switch stay with him at all times because there's no way Tiger Mom can take proper care of it. Mind you, the attorneys are billing enough to pay for 3 Switches an hour at this point. I don't know what happened to the guy, but I do know calling him Baymax could land one lady in contempt of court after the most hilarious enforcement trial of all time. And he owns what's probably the most expensive Nintendo Switch in the world. Ex-wife got the whole damn planet in the divorce. All I've got left is my bones. On the positive side, he's apparently been doing really well lately, so good for him. I had 2 couples come to me. They had been friends for nigh on 15 years. Husband A decided he liked wife B more than wife A. Wife A decided she likes husband B more than husband A. The reverse was also true, and husband B preferred wife A. Wife B preferred husband A. The couples had near identical assets in terms of value. They came to me all together, and I drafted 2 sets of paperwork. 2 default judgment hearings were set on the same day. The judge signed all the papers the same day. A week after that, they all went to a JP and remarried. The husbands swapped houses and they all went about their lives exactly as they had the week before, but each slightly happier. Friend of mine is a divorce lawyer. His favorite is the time the husband in a bitter divorce got some slimy lawyer and said he would outlawyer her and break the bank before giving her anything she wanted. This was in front of my friend, a lawyer. He looks at her and says, "I'm working for you pro bono, free, from this moment forward." He looks back at them and says, "I got all day." I'm not a lawyer, but I remember my friend's mom's divorce from her second marriage. I guess there is a rule where, if an attorney has interacted with party A in a suit, they can't offer services to party B. So my friend's mom called every divorce lawyer within a 100-mile radius and essentially boxed her ex out of a lot of decent representation within a reasonable driving range. Not a divorce lawyer, but there's this security guard that works at the mall my friend works at, and he immigrated to the US from India and was in an arranged marriage with this American-born Indian girl. He busted his ass off to put her through college and dentistry school, and she ended up cheating on him with her ex-boyfriend from high school and ran off with him. They didn't get divorced, but he's still paying off her school loans. My dad is a retired lawyer, not a divorce lawyer, but he knows judges. He got this story from a judge. Man, lawyer, actually, and woman divorce, somewhat unhappily. They have kids. Woman gets custody with man having visitation. Woman apparently does not like that man divorced her and takes parental alienation as her goal in life. So far so terrible, right? Man takes woman to court over this. Woman actually ends up in jail for contempt more than once. Apparently they'd let her out and she'd go back to her prime goal in life, convincing her kids to hate her ex. Judge, who told this story to my dad, finally tells man, "I can throw her back in jail as many times as you want, but there's no winner in this." I'm paraphrasing. It's been a few years since dad told me this story. Dad didn't know the rest of the story, but seriously, the most screwed in that divorce were the poor children. An accountant, not a lawyer. I had a buddy, a good guy, but he thought with the wrong head. Divorced one woman, fell into relationship with this bimbo blonde who messed around on him. They had started a business together, but all the designs were his. She wanted the designs. I went in as his witness and testified about the amount of money they had invested, and that yes, the designs had all existed before the marriage as I had helped him set it up. Well, they spent months fighting about it. Her attorney was a crook. $35,000 each in legal bills. Both filed bankruptcy. And guess what? He got the designs and business, but had to sell his house and leave town. Of course, got married again, got taken again. Then number 4 had 3 kids and she screwed him too. Some people never learn. He is almost 60 with 3 kids under 10.